The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, I am Jasmyne Cannick, and what did we say the name of the show is going to be? We've got issues, right? We've got issues, and I've got a lot of issues, a lot of personal issues right now, which is why I haven't done the show in like the past 2 weeks, but I decided that I was going to come in and do it today despite all of what's going on in my personal life. And when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to come into Morris Media Studios in Leimert Park and talk about today, the thing that was heaviest on my mind was the case of Gemmel Moore, because I've been reading a lot of stuff online from different news outlets, different blogs about the case. Some of it is completely inaccurate. Some of it is accurate. But I wanted to, because I have firsthand information, just basically come and talk about it, because it should be talked about. So I'm just I'm like kind of stalling a little bit. I'm taking a couple of seconds to repost, because like I said, I'm actually on Facebook and I'm on Twitter at the same time. So I'm just trying to make sure everybody knows. So I have a short amount of time that I do this, so I'm going to try to be as concise as possible, but the death of Gemmel Moore is very serious, and it's a very serious case. And I'm going to start at the beginning, and we're going to look at a couple of videos along the way and sort of have a discussion about the district attorney's recent decision not to go forward with any criminal charges in this case. So Gemmel Moore was 26 years old last year when he was flown to Los Angeles from Houston by Ed Buck. And Ed Buck is a white, pretty wealthy and prominent Democratic donor here in the Los Angeles area. He donates to all local, state, and federal level. He's donated to our district attorney. He's donated to lots of folks who are running for office, lots of office holders, who are people who are currently in office. And he's pretty well known as Mr. Moneybags. He gives money. Usually if you're white, Latino, and male, you'll get money out of him. He flew Gemmel Moore, who is an African-American, African-American, obviously, black gay man, out to Los Angeles. And within a few hours of Gemmel landing here, he was dead. And so I'm going to put on this news clip, and we're going to talk about this news clip, and it's going to take us into our discussion about what happened to Gemmel. Do you have the Fox 11? Okay.
Laura, Christine, good evening. Detectives say only out of an abundance of caution are they going to be taking a closer look into what happened at this building behind me on July 27th. An upstairs apartment up there is where Ed Buck lives. He's a very prominent Democratic donor here in the L.A. area, and it was inside that apartment where 26-year-old Gemmel Moore was found dead, apparently from a meth overdose. Now, Moore's mother is questioning whether or not Buck had something to do with her son's death, whether or not he was responsible for it, but Buck's attorney says his client has done nothing wrong, and he only tries to help people. July 27th, 2017. Surveillance images reveal a moment when the body of 26-year-old Gemmel Moore is removed from the West Hollywood apartment of Ed Buck, a very well-known Democratic donor in L.A.
I am calling out the West Hollywood Sheriff's Department to please launch a thorough investigation into the supposed accidental death of my son.
In a video posted to YouTube, Gemmel Moore's mother, Letitia Nixon, says she feels the police initially turned a blind eye to her son's case because he was a gay black man, and Buck has political clout.
And Buck is a wealthy white politician who has, contributed a lot of money to the different campaigns and different funds.
Moore was reportedly a sex worker, and Nixon has questions about her son's relationship with Buck. It was here, inside his apartment, where police found Moore unresponsive. His death was initially ruled an accidental meth overdose, but LA County homicide detectives are launching a probe, citing new concerns. I got no response when I called Buck's apartment, but the building manager provided me with images showing the moments deputies arrived to his residence after Moore's death. Buck can be seen in the white shirt. The manager tells me video captured another young man trying to come up to Buck's apartment while deputies were still there. He says those deputies had to tell the man to go away. A short time later, Moore's body is removed from Buck's apartment.
I think that only a white man could get away with having a dead black body in his house.
Jasmyne Cannick is a community activist who has been in touch with Moore's family. She says Moore's family provided her with his journal, which documents his relationship with Buck.
He details how Ed Buck, according to him, hooked him on crystal meth.
In this passage, Moore writes that Buck gave him his first injection of crystal meth, that it was very painful, but he became addicted to the pain. He adds, quote, "If it didn't hurt so bad, I'd kill myself, but I'll let Ed Buck do it for now," end quote. Buck's attorney, Seymour Amster, tells Fox 11 the journal is full of unverified statements and that he and his client categorically deny them. He described Moore as a troubled soul and called his situation tragic, but said Buck was only good friends with him, describing his client as a kind-hearted man who reaches out to troubled youth who are often homeless. It will now be up to law enforcement to figure out if there was any foul play involved in Moore's death. Now, it's very important to point out that Buck has not been charged with any crime. He's not even being considered as a suspect in this case. His attorney says he thinks the LA County Sheriff's Office is just doing its due diligence, doing the responsible thing by taking a closer look into what happened to this apartment up here. He believes at the end of this investigation, it will not bear any fruit. We are live in West Hollywood tonight. Bill?
Yes. So, let's take that from the top. All right. So from the top is that this all happened July 27, 2017. And despite what the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department is putting out there and had put out there, it wasn't an abundance of caution that they decided to go back and make this a homicide investigation. What it was that we went to the morgue and his journal was in his backpack and we published it. And they look stupid. That's what happened. What they told the media and what the media decided to run with, because of course, a lot of times people in the media have a hard time saying anything negative about law enforcement, even when it's true. And I'm not saying we should just say negative things about law enforcement, but in this case, that was a bold-faced lie. Like, it wasn't out of an abundance of caution. It was simply because they got embarrassed because we published Gemmel Moore's journal, and they had so quickly closed the case. So when Gemmel was found in Ed Buck's apartment, deceased, I want to say it was 2 to 3 days, if that they had closed the case and basically labeled it as an accidental meth death. Okay. And like I said, we came forward with the journal, and instead of going to them, we published it, and it was all over the news. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute. Hey, we might have to go back and actually investigate this. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to point out is that I don't know too many people, my skin color, who could have the sheriffs or any law enforcement agency show up at their house with a dead body in their house and explain it away. Okay. So, I got a lot of slack on Twitter and some social media from people saying, oh, it's not white privilege. It's Democratic donor privilege. It's this privilege. It's that privilege. No. It was white privilege, because here is a man who just told the sheriff's department, I didn't know he was doing drugs. Oh, he must have overdosed. I had no idea. I was just trying to help a young, homeless, black young man. I had no idea. And okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, you're 63 and he's 26. And yeah, that definitely sounds about right. And they closed the case. So that was completely white privilege. And for people who don't understand that, you can hit me up and I can explain it to you further in depth. But I can guarantee you that I don't care what color the body was in my house, I could not explain it away. I just could not explain it away. But Ed Buck was able to do that. And so going back to Gemmel's journal, I just want to read to you some of the things that he had in his journal, right? So he says his life is at an all-time high right now, and that he ended up back at Buck's house again, and I'm paraphrasing, and he got manipulated into slamming again, and slamming is shooting meth, right? Shooting it through a needle. And he even went to the point where he was forced, his words, forced. I was forced to doing 4 within a 2-day period. This man is crazy, and it's sad. Will I ever get help? Gemmel's words, okay? So anybody reading that with any kind of common sense would say to themselves, maybe there's something more to this story. And the other pages of the journal go on and on like that. And he names Buck in his journal. And his mother confirms, that's my son's handwriting. I mean, look, when people write journals, they don't ever think that their journals are going to be published, right? They don't think that their journals are going to be read by people like me and you. And so this was a very personal journal that I'm sure Gemmel never thought was going to end up in the public sphere. And it did. And, you know, it's really sad, you know, that the sheriff's department, even with, you know, because we have, you know, evidence and then we have admissible evidence, right? And so, you know, technically his journal is hearsay. But I'll tell you what wasn't hearsay. And this is where we're going to continue on in the story. So as you watched that Fox 11 clip, you saw where there was another young man headed up to Buck's house and they hadn't even taken Gemmel's body out yet and the sheriffs had to make him stop. Like, again, I'm a sheriff's deputy. That seems a little strange to me. I'm thinking if I have the body of someone in my house, why would I be sending for someone else to come over? I mean, that was really, really weird. And again, I guess it didn't send out any sort of, you know, warning or red lights for the sheriff's department because they just, like I said, continued on and labeled it an accidental death. And so over time, you know, we had young black gay men who came forward and they reached out anonymously. And some of them reached out through social media. Some of them reached out through email. And they told us, look, I've been with Ed Buck. Ed Buck has solicited me on Adam for Adam website. Let me tell you something. This investigative journalist right here registered her an Adam for Adam account. And, you know, my poor eyes, for those who like that kind of stuff, for me, not so much. But I went on Adam for Adam myself and I saw the ads myself that he posted looking for black gay men. I posted those ads on my blog at jasmyneonline.com. You know, this was not made up. These young men came forward with videos, with photos. All of them had the same couch. All of them had the same mirrors. All of them had the same carpet. You know, the same American flag. I mean, this was Ed Buck's apartment, and it wasn't 1, it wasn't 2, it wasn't 3, it wasn't 4, it was a lot of young men because this is his MO. These are the people he goes after. He goes after people who he knows that he can influence and manipulate using money because he knows that they need money, whether they need money to get a hotel or, you know, hotel, motel, whatever, room for the night, whether they need money for food, whether they need money for a flight, whether they need money for whatever. He knows that he can use his money. And what he asked these young men to do is to dress up in white underwear. This is what they all tell me. And these young men don't know each other. Dress up in white underwear so he can take pictures of them. He must administer the meth to you. That's one thing he's very adamant about, they all say, is that he has to be the one to shoot the meth into you. Like, you can't do your own meth. He has to give you meth. And on quite a few occasions, I had young men say that the meth that he took was very different from the meth that they took, meaning it was in different containers, different bags, however meth comes. I'm sorry, I'm not expert on meth. So, and that was really suspicious to them. And so these young men came over to us, you know, one at a time. They didn't know each other. with sort of the same reoccurring theme in all of their stories, right? And one of the things that I did not like about the situation with Gemmel Moore was that there was a blog, I think it's called the WeHo Times, and it's a piece of shit. And they completely used the story of Gemmel Moore to basically boost their hits to their website. And that story ended up getting quoted by all these other stories. So Gemmel became a prostitute, and he became this and became that, and he became dehumanized. And that really bothered me a lot because, at the end of the day, no matter if Gemmel was an escort or a sex worker or whatever he or the young men want to refer to themselves as, they didn't agree to be taken advantage of. And Gemmel most certainly didn't agree to die on July 27, 2017. And so none of that, to me, dehumanizing him, trying to say that, because he was an escort or because he was a sex worker, it doesn't matter what happened to him. He earned it, or he brought that onto himself. That doesn't matter. That's not his fault, And we have, as a people, we have to stop doing that. Like, there are certain instances where I can look at situations and I can say that, yes, someone did play a role in what happened. And no one's saying that Gemmel didn't. But what we are trying to make really clear is that Gemmel did not agree to be killed that day. He did not agree to have the life basically drained out of him. And he was worried about that. And his journal tells us that in his very own words. So we have all these young men that come forward, and, it wasn't easy getting them to agree to speak to law enforcement because of the stuff that they were going to have to talk about. Some of the stuff they were going to have to talk about was admitting to crimes themselves, right? And how law enforcement is with black men and black people in general, particularly in the state of California. So, they go in trying to be a witness, and themselves, they end up turning into a suspect and getting arrested. And so we were able to get limited immunity for them to speak to the sheriff's department. And even with that, they managed to mess that up too, right? And they ended up, I know they called one young man an illegal male escort, and he didn't really take too kindly to that. This was no Law and Order SVU team we were working with. It was actually the furthest thing from it. What comes to mind when I think of these detectives? Hunter, the most uncaring, unfeeling, police officer or detectives. They get all picky about that, detectives. So we did that. We got Gemmel's other cell phones. We collected all this evidence from these young men, these photos, these videos, text messages from Buck to their phone, conversations online with Ed Buck through these dating websites. We had screenshots and everything of all of that stuff. And what did the sheriffs come back to us with? I think it took them a month to 2 months to generate a flyer. Yes, it was a flyer. They decided that they were going to put up a flyer around bars in West Hollywood where Ed Buck frequented. And when I say frequented, he would like to go to the back of the bar and try to pick up, black men he saw walking. And I'm thinking, okay, it's not a half bad idea until I saw the flyer. And the flyer had Gemmel Moore's picture on it and not Ed Buck's picture on it. And it basically looked like a wanted ad for Gemmel Moore, like he was a suspect in a crime. And it was so sad because that was an opportunity to really get some witnesses. And they messed that up too. They sure did. Because people didn't know who Gemmel Moore was. But I guarantee you, if they had put Ed Buck's picture on there, they probably would have got at least one telephone call. But no, that did not happen. throughout this entire time, Ed Buck had hired an attorney. He represented the Grim Sleeper. If any of you guys remember the Grim Sleeper case, he's the same attorney that represented Lonnie Franklin. His name is Seymour Amster. And basically, Seymour Amster was getting paid mega bucks to go around and basically say that Ed Buck is innocent, and all he ever tries to do is help young homeless black men. And he opens up his home to them and tries to help them. And that Gemmel Moore was a very good friend of his, and he's just devastated, by all of this. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's basically the gist of what he told the news, what he's quoted, online and in news clips saying. And I thought to myself, if my good friend ended up dead, not just dead, naked, dead in my house, and it's my good friend, right? Not just a friend, good friend. I'm thinking I'm going to call his mom. I'm thinking, given the amount of money that Ed Buck has, if I had that money, I'm thinking I'm paying for the funeral service. At the very least, I'm thinking I'm sending her some flowers. I'm sending a funeral spray to the mortuary or wherever the service is held. I am trying to reach out to his other friends and let them know how sorry I am. And I just got to tell you, Ed Buck must not think well of his good friends, because he did none of that. None of that. He didn't reach out to the family. He didn't pay for the funeral. He didn't send anything to the funeral, unless maybe he could have sent the WeHo Times. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But he didn't do anything. And as far as Ed Buck helping young black gay men, let's be really clear. This is a man who has a history of donating money to political donors. He likes to be around, like, politicians. He wants to be a part of the in crowd, okay? Whatever he associates as the in crowd. And for him, those are mostly white and Latino elected officials, male, okay? You go down the very long list, you might pull out 4 to 5 African Americans, but for the most part, it's white and Latino males. And a lot of them are gay. And that's who he gives his money to. He's also known as an animal rights advocate. And I got to tell you that he treats the animals that he picks up off the street better than he treated the young black men that he brought into his home. And so Seymour Amster can kiss my ass with all that. Nobody is buying that. These are things I can't say on the news and on television, but I can say it right here. So yeah, he can kiss my ass. None of that is true. And we went through a whole year of this, right? Only to find out last week what we kind of had already figured out, based on the fact that the sheriffs didn't really do an investigation with more lip service, that they were not going to press any charges against Ed Buck. So he basically got away with what I consider to be murder. And, I recently posted a new story about Ed Buck and how this young man recently came forward and said, hey, I was over there on Cinco de Mayo. Here's my video. He bought me a ticket from LAX to Dallas. Sure enough, he sends me his receipts. Oh, Ed Buck paid for that ticket. It showed you all, his name, his email address. He sent me the text messages between him and Buck and his, different other receipts. And it just goes to show that this is a pattern of behavior for this man. And it's really sad that, we had to deal with detectives who are more concerned with Prop 47 and trying to play prosecutor and figure out, well, what can we get away with? What can we charge him with? What can we not charge him with? What is he going to be able to fight? Than what they normally would do to someone like me, which is basically throw the book and see what sticks. You know what I'm saying? They didn't do that in this case. Ed Buck was afforded all of the luxuries, all of the privileges that white people are often afforded in his type of position. And in the end, I had to speak with Gemmel's mother, Miss Nixon, and it's just like, I felt so bad, because I felt like we worked so hard for an entire year to make this story an issue. We worked hard to put it in front of the California Democratic Party, which still has not acknowledged Gemmel Moore, has not returned its money. And a lot of the politicians didn't return their money or lied about returning their money. Like Kevin De Leon, who's running for U.S. Senate, will never, ever get my vote. I don't care if he was the last person on the ballot. No one else was on the ballot. I guess I just wouldn't be voting for the first time. So, you know, it's hurtful because we put in a lot of work and effort. And when I say we, there were a lot of people. It wasn't just me. There was the attorney, Nana Jumphy. There was Miss Nixon. There was all of Gemmel's friends. So it was definitely a team effort. And in some ways, I just feel like if I keep saying if, and maybe I should be saying when, but you know, if there's another body that ends up at Ed Buck's house, it's going to be on the County of Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and the Los Angeles County District Attorney Jackie Lacey's head, because they had every opportunity to stop this monster and they didn't stop him. And he has shown no willingness to stop his behavior. He's continuing to do it. People still need money. Believe it or not, there are some people out there who have never even heard of him and still end up at his house. You know, if I'm his neighbor, I'm telling you, I have a camera or a telescope pointed at his door at all times. That would be me if I was his neighbor. But I can't afford to live in West Hollywood, so I don't live in West Hollywood. And even if I could, I wouldn't live there. So that's what happened with the Gemmel Moore case. I don't think it's completely over yet. I think the attorney and his mother are kind of looking at next steps and seeing what other legal action they can bring. Think OJ, think some of these other cases where, you know, folks were either not charged or they were found innocent or, there's always the civil side of things. So maybe that'll be a course of action that they can take. And I will continue to read my emails and read my messages on Facebook and everywhere else from young men who go over there and send me their receipts and stuff. And I will continue to post that stuff. I will continue to keep outing him. And, you know, hopefully we won't be coming back here hooking up on social media saying, hey, guess what? Someone else died at Ed Buck's house. But if that should happen, the county is going to pay. I guarantee you. Our lives are important. Our lives mean something. And, you know, Jackie Lacey had a conflict of interest to begin with because she took money from Ed Buck. And I don't know if that played a role into it because she got the least of everybody. She only got $100. Like I said, he didn't really like black women. He didn't really give money to black women. He maxes out on everybody else. He gave her $100. So I don't know, but it was still a donation. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit because that was kind of on my mind. You know, like I said, it's not over. And we'll see what else we can turn up on Ed Buck. And if you see him, tell him Jasmine's watching. Jasmine, we are waiting because he's going to slip up again. He is going. Somebody's either going to die or OD at his house. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I just kind of wanted to check in with you guys and talk about that. There's a lot going on in my life, but I don't want to talk about the other stuff right now. So I kept it real simple. And we talked about Gemmel Moore today. Leave your comments. I'll respond to them later. And, you know, if you are one of those young men who have been to Ed Buck's house and we haven't talked, hit me up. I'd love to talk to you. And if you have any photos or videos or information about Ed Buck, let me know. And that's it. So that covers this edition of We Got Issues. The issue today was Gemmel Moore, and I am in Leimert Park at Morris Media Studios, and I will check in with you next Wednesday. Hopefully we'll talk about something a little bit less weighty as today's discussion, but maybe not. Who knows? A lot can happen in a week. So that's it for now. Enjoy your week, you guys. Bye.